On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, did Victor Wembanyama just wrap up the Rookie of the Year race as the Spurs beat the Thunder? We'll talk about it all on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for InsideTheThunder.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder, seeing their winning streak snapped by the San Antonio Spurs. Did Victor just wrap up the Rookie of the Year race, and the Thunder comeback bid falls short? But in this game, you saw J-Dub prove to be a legitimate star, but what went wrong for the Thunder to lose this game? Again, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet that you win. That's $150 new customers for a $5 bet win. As long as it wins, you can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, this game, the Thunder come out and they're riding this high. They just swept the Rockets in a baseball-style series. They've been spectacular in the last few games here, and come out and you lose in San Antonio. It's a 6-game losing streak snapped. It's just one game, and you're not going to win all 82 games. In this league, it's a make or miss league. The defense for the Thunder was bad in this one, and the Thunder have to clean that up and have to be crisper in their rotations and have to bring more energy. The thing is, we've seen the Thunder play with that energy defensively. We've seen the Thunder rotate so much better. We've seen the Thunder execute so much more cleaner than in this game, way more often than we've seen the Thunder play this way. And so even as frustrating as it might be to go out and play that bad defensively, specifically against a matchup like that, where, of course, the nature of Victor versus Chet is going to drive so much steam and going to get so much fodder on social media, and you're going to have to live with the fact that Victor just shut this game down in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, it does not, indicate anything other than this was a bad game on, February 29th in the year of our Lord 2024, and you move on. Because whenever you let a team get comfortable, I don't care how bad they are, I don't care how poor they shoot, when an NBA team gets comfortable and confident, they're going to hit tough shots. When they hit tough shots and you rotate as though you just got off of Willie Nelson's tour bus, they're going to shoot lights out from three. They're going to have 30% three-point shooters hit freaking 30-footers. They're going to have Devin Vassell knock down shots when there's defenders in his shorts because they're comfortable and because you let them dictate the terms of this game early on. It's very, very hard in this league. Very, very hard in this league, no matter who you play, to turn that intensity defensively on and off. You have a chance to flip the switch offensively a lot greater than you do defensively. But the Thunder had 12 lead changes, 12 ties in this one. The Spurs got up by 14. The Thunder never led by more than 7. To the Thunder's credit, they did storm back and they took the lead in the fourth quarter. But the Spurs, to their credit, as the youngest roster, they were able to handle the run. The home crowd was electric, and Victor Wembanyama took over this game and flat out won it in the fourth quarter. But it comes down to the Spurs, who are an abhorrent team, who is a traditionally inefficient team this year, shot 52% from the floor. The worst three-point shooting team shot 48% from three and 85% at the free throw line. The Thunder, in turn, shot 49% from the floor, a typically good three-point shooting team, a typically historically good three-point shooting team as the numbers bear out right now, shot 29% from three, and they shot 95% from the charity stripe. The Thunder were a plus 10 in the paint. The Spurs were a plus 8 in second chance points. The Thunder were a plus 12 in fast breaks. And they did not capitalize and create turnovers at the clip that you're used to seeing. The Spurs turned it over 11 times, but OKC gave it up 10 times. The Spurs won the glass 45-37. But the big story in this game is that, as we talked about on Thursday heading into this game, these two teams had matched up twice previous to this one. And neither side, Victor nor Chet, had a game where you stake your flag to the Rookie of the Year award. And that's what it was going to come down to. Who would have the moment? Who would have the game between these two guys? Because on top of having the narrative-driven stuff that Wemby has, whenever you're crowned as the next LeBron James, the same voters who crowned you as that want to have that confirmation in how they vote at the end of the year. So that already put Wembanyama ahead. Then you're playing for a team where you can get the usage and get the stats and everything else. That puts Wemby ahead. And he's also been a fantastic player this year. That helps put Wemby ahead. But whenever you have a moment like this, you go from being ahead to ending the race. Because this was throwing down the gauntlet. This was the game that voters will look back on and remember. This was the game that really takes away a lot of the argument. Because the bottom line is, in the Rookie of the Year race, you're not expected to win a ton of games your rookie year. Traditionally, the best players and the best rookies are going to be drafted by poor teams and drafted by teams that cannot win games. So losing games doesn't hurt you. In turn, being inefficient doesn't hurt you. So the two big calling cards for Chet Holmgren historically have not mattered much in the Rookie of the Year race. And then when Victor Wembanyama has the game that he has in the fourth quarter that he has, where he nearly takes the Thunder out and eliminates the Thunder in this game by himself, and when you look back on this game, you're going to remember that block at the free throw line. That's the moment. Talking to the crowd after the game, that's the moment. Not to say that he wasn't the rightful front runner heading into this game or not, right? I think that both these guys have put up Rookie of the Year caliber seasons. They just so happen to be rookies at the exact same time. But this is one of those deciding factors. When you're putting the chips down to try to tip the scales, this is a very, very, very big gram to put on that scale to tip it toward Victor Wembanyama. This was a moment. 28 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks. In the fourth quarter alone, he had 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. Chet's gotten the better of him as a team, two wins already against Victor to 1 loss. But Victor had the game. He had the moment. And there's no guarantee that we get a part 4 this year, because that fourth game doesn't happen until the end of the regular season, the third to last game of the year. So there's no guarantee that at that point Victor will still be playing, or at that point that the game will still matter. You look at the way the regular season standings is trending right now. It should matter, but for one side, but for the Spurs, they could be shutting down Wemby by that point. But this was the moment for the Spurs. This was the moment for Victor, and this was their Super Bowl. And I don't say that in a demeaning way, but in a season where the wins and losses don't matter, in a season where you're playing for lottery balls, in the season where you're only investing in this young team, you have matchups that matter more than others. You have matchups that you want to win more than others. And this was one that the Spurs were always going to sell all out for. And to their credit, they got what they needed. They needed a fantastic shooting night. They got it. They needed to handle the typical Thunder run, which has led them to having the most double-digit point comeback wins in the NBA so far this year. They handled that run as the youngest team. They deserved to win this game. The crowd was obviously juiced and was obviously more juiced than normal. Like, this was a big game for them, and they came in and they won the game. And Victor played great. And of his 12 wins, I would guarantee you that this was probably his most beloved so far. in his NBA career. And when you take a step back and look at this from the lenses of the NBA versus just the Thunder or the Spurs or Chet or Wemby, they can talk all they want to talk. They can say all the right things. I don't got to say the right things, right? They have to. I don't have to. These two guys clearly do not like each other on the court. These two guys clearly view this as a on-court rivalry. These two guys clearly think that these games matter more and mean more than your run-of-the-mill contest. And these two guys clearly want to get the better of each other. So Chet can talk about how it's the Thunder versus Spurs, and Wemby can say the right things as well. The bottom line is the actions on the court show that this is a more meaningful game to each of them than playing Charlotte on a Tuesday, which is perfect for the NBA. The NBA fans alike, Thunder fans, Spurs fans, everyone that enjoys the sport of basketball should love that about these two guys, that they are willing to, on the court, go at each other and have these performances and these shows put on for the fan base. But you have this game right here, and you have these three games, these three data points. It's great that you say the right things, but it's clear that in actuality, these two guys really like going head to head and really like competing against each other and wanting to get the better of each other, which is awesome. Just flat out awesome as an NBA fan to go watch. But the Thunder lost this game. I get it. It's frustrating, especially because you have that narrative of Chet versus Wemby, but that's par for the course. That's life in the NBA when you play 82 games. The sad part is they've lost the title belt. They've lost the Locked On title belt. No more do we have the belt in the corner of our YouTube videos. That now goes to the Spurs. We'll see how long that they keep it. They might just lose to Indiana next game and call it good. But nonetheless, they have it for now. Now, we'll talk more about this game, including Chet Holmgren, who, even though Victor had his moment, Chet Holmgren played great in this one overall. Plus, we're going to talk about Josh and Lou and SGA and J-Dub and the rest of this Thunder team. But first, want to tell you right now about our good friends over at FanDuel. Check out FanDuel right now. Go there right this second. Because when you do, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with the winning of any $5 bet. Go there right now because it's a great time to jump in. Because if you get that $5 bet right and you get $150 in bonus bets, you're going to have it just in time on Locked On on the FanDuel.com/Locked On. You're going to have it just in time to hop in there for March Madness, which is awesome, for the stretch run of the NBA and the NBA postseason. Baseball is going to be heating up. I don't advise, I don't know if you even can advise betting on spring training, but opening day will be here before you know it at the end of the month. And of course, you have March Madness, you have NBA, you have NHL to get you through until the regular season. So make sure you go there right now to FanDuel.com/Locked On. Right now, you can check out the NBA lines for tonight. A really good slate on tap tonight, like the Mavericks going up against the Celtics. Mavericks in the Garden, 9.5-point underdogs. I like Dallas in that one. Let's see what happens at FanDuel.com/Locked On. That's FanDuel.com/Locked On. FanDuel.com/Locked On. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Look, Chet Holmgren was awesome in this game. Was awesome. 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, couple lobs, 1 for 4 from 3, 6 for 6 from the free throw line. He had that transition 3 over Wemby. He showed off elite touch, spinning, hit the ball up there in traffic on the rim. He had that scoop layup around Wemby. Did a really good job of attacking smaller matchups, going into the paint, in the mid-paint, hitting a fadeaway. Ran the pick and roll with J-Dub very well. It got him a lob. The great thing about Chet Holmgren is I'm not sure if anyone has made this meme yet. I'm sure that they have. But like the meme in football about just throwing it down there because so-and-so's down there somewhere, it's basically the same thing with Chet Holmgren. I mean, you can just throw the ball anywhere and he'll get a piece of it and knock it in to the hoop. So like Chet Holmgren has been a safety valve in that way for guys like J-Dub and pick and roll ball handlers. And it was no different in this game. He continues to show elite footwork, knifing through the lane for a slam. There were a couple things though. For as great as he was, he especially had it going in the first half, 17 points in the first half, to only get 5 attempts in the second half. And I believe at least 2 of those came under 2 to play in a game that was cooked for all intents and purposes. You want to see that improve. You want to see that get better. You want to see the Thunder continue to spoon feed a guy who was feeling it and was so hot to start this game. Now that comes with the territory, right? Rookie big men, it's one of the hardest positions to learn, one of the hardest positions to find your footing in the NBA, no matter how generational you are. Also, it's very difficult and Chet's talked about this, of finding your kind of balance of, yeah, I could go attack this matchup every single time, but you still want to play the game within the flow of your offense, versus when to be aggressive versus when to just run, your sets and everything else. But the Thunder, I think, need to continue to get him involved consistently. To their credit, though, again, as we talked about, this is just one game. To their credit, though, post All-Star break, he's been ultra aggressive. They've done a great job of getting him involved consistently. But in a game like this, you would like to see him get more than 5 attempts in the second half, just because of how good he was. Now, another thing that was happening on Twitter, and I think that this is partly, defense is very hard for anyone to understand, really, especially whenever you're watching the NBA. It's really hard to understand, like most sports, for most people. But people had a lot of issues with him defending Jeremy Sohan, and I think that, like, this is a really easy concept, especially for what should be for Thunder fans, is that, like, you are doing the inverse of what teams have typically done to Josh Giddey. You're doing it to Jeremy Sohan, of like putting Chet on Sohan and roaming away from the ball allowed the Thunder to limit Victor, especially in that first half. Of course, Victor had a great game. Like, it did more for their defense to do that than if they just had Chet on Wemby. The Spurs did the same thing for the most part. Like, you are going to want to have Chet as a roamer as much as you can, especially when you have a guy like J-Dub, who obviously gives up so much height on Wemby. Spoiler alert, everybody's going to give up so much height on Wemby, who can be physical and play under Wemby. When he gets past J-Dub, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because now you're dealing with Chet Holmgren at the rim. So funneling everything toward Chet was actually a smart idea by Mark and the Thunder coaching staff. It just so happened to be during a game where they had some of their most lackluster defensive effort. But in general, the principle of having J-Dub on Wemby and having Chet being able to roam off of Sohan is actually a good idea. And everyone acknowledges it's a good idea whenever, like, teams do it to the Thunder. But, like, then whenever the Thunder do it to another team, they kind of get this confusion of, like, why isn't Chet guarding Wemby? It's to have that same benefit of Chet, with the instincts he possesses, with the rim protection he possesses, being able to be free as, like, this kind of just rover around the rim. So I think that was a really good idea by the Thunder whenever they had him on Sohan, and it helped the Thunder a lot, especially in that first half. Speaking of Jaylin Williams, J-Dub was legitimately awesome, and he has proven to be a star. I mean, we can just call it what it is at this point. Like, J-Dub, we can keep dancing around it. We can keep up this charade of, like, oh, it's too good to be true, and the Thunder, how good can they really be? J-Dub's a star. Like flatly, J-Dub is a star. He's this 3-level scorer who's ultra efficient, who can get to his spots insanely well, who can play defense at a high level, especially for his possession, especially as a switching modern defender. Like, J-Dub is just legitimately a star, and in this game, he continued to prove it. But you look at the entire body of work of what he's done this season, and it all leads up to how he played in this game, and you see it left, right, and center this season. Against the Spurs, he goes out there and has 26 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, a steal, and he only missed 1 shot inside the arc. Going left, he is unstoppable going left, just absolutely unstoppable. The awareness of how to score, I think, is something that is not talked about enough with J-Dub. Like, the awareness of when to use the floater, when to use the step back, when to get to the rim hard, when to pull up a dribble, jump shot. Like, those things are intangible. Those things matter. He had that floater over Wemby. He hit this elbow jumper over Wemby because Wemby was a little bit too far off of him. Had the give and go with Josh Giddey, where he just slices through the lane really hard, diving toward the rim, and has this nice little, what do you want to call it, 180 jam? Is that the degree for J-Dub? But ultimately, with such fluid movements, his ever-improving dribbling package with those behind the backs, those crossovers that free him up, you can see him become a go-to scorer night in and night out for this Thunder team. And each passing game, he's understanding how to use his frame, how to use his long arms to his advantage. You watch as he elevates his reach over defenders to get the ball into the hoop. You watch as he twists his shoulders on drives to shield off defenders and shield away the contest. You can see him understand when to put a shoulder into guys on these mid-range jumpers and when to put his chest on guys on drives, and it really helps him in a big way score the basketball. And again, I mean, you look, and what more could you want from a guy who's shooting 70% at the rim, 49% in the short mid-range, 48% in the long mid-range, 49% overall mid-range, which is in the 90th percentile. You watch him shoot 50% in the corner, 45% on non-corner threes, 45% on overall threes, which is in the 95th percentile, according to Cleaning the Glass. Jaylin Williams is a legitimate star. He's a legitimate go-to guy, and you just have this nucleus, this core that continues to show itself. You even look at a guy like SGA, who just had an unbelievably slow start, especially for his standards, and ends up with the most consistent stat line in the NBA, which we're going to talk about coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at Prize Picks. Check out Prize Picks right now. You're going to want to get there and see all the benefits that they have for you, because it's available in Oklahoma and it's very fun to play. So it's a fun little game that can benefit you if you want to make watching these games a little bit more entertaining. If you're into that sort of thing, all you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections. That's it. You're not competing against other players, or you're not competing against guys who just know everything about fantasy sports. It's just you versus the projected numbers, more or less, on their stat projections. And it's demon time on Prize Picks. You can now win 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct answers. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with demons and goblins. It's the newest and most exciting way to play Prize Picks. The squares marked with red demons or green goblins get different payouts. You can now win 100x your money with as little as 4 correct picks. So check it out today at Prize Picks right now. You can even do cross-sport entries as well if you want to, but you can also stick to NBA. So again, it's as easy as this. Like the projection of will Shai have more or less than 29.5 points? Boom. You just predict and then watch the game and see if you are right. Go there right now to prizepicks.com/lockedon. That's prizepicks.com/lockedonnba. That's prizepicks.com/lockedonnba, or use code LOCKEDONNBA for the first deposit match up to $100 with code LOCKEDONNBA. Check them out today and make sure you go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. I'm your host, Rylan Stiles, and you can see Locked On Sports Today. It's a 24/7 streaming channel on the Amazon Fire TV, free Fire TV channels app, and on YouTube, with all of our local stories from our local experts and our national shows covering every league. Check it out today at the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel and for free on the Fire TV channels app. SGA starts out unbelievably slow. In the first quarter, he goes 2 for 9. In the second quarter, goes 2 for 2. Second half, though, he goes 8 for 11 from the floor. He finishes. You look up and you're just like, what? Shai had 31 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block, a couple and ones, and really willed this team in the second half. It just the mark of consistency from SGA, even in this game, to just somehow find a way to 31 points, mainly due to the damage he did in the second half, was just really, really good. Now, the Thunder, obviously, when you lose to the Spurs, it's not all good. We talked about the defense, which was just abhorrent. You look at Lu Dort and Josh Giddey; those were 2 guys that did not help the matter at all. Lu Dort, 3 for 8 from the floor. One of his makes was a no mid-range push-off that somehow went in, pushed off like Michael Jordan in the finals, but it went in the mid-range. 1 for 6 from 3, 4 rebounds, 8 points, minus 17 in this game. He played 33 minutes. He had 3 straight threes missed in big moments. I believe it was like under 4 to play in the fourth quarter whenever that happened. And in a game like this, the problem with Lu Dort in a game like this, whenever you're not shooting the ball well, and the Spurs don't have this, elite scorer who you want to put them on, because you're not going to put Lu Dort on Wemby, obviously. Like they don't have this elite wing or guard you're going to put Lu Dort on. It really limits the positive impact he can make, especially whenever you couple it with Josh Giddey, who shot 1 for 5 from the floor. The one make was a really good cut through the lane that was fed in by Aaron Wiggins, but he shot 1 for 5 overall. Awful effort defensively. Again, the whole team had bad effort defensively, but Josh specifically, for a guy who's not played well the majority of this season, for him to have poor effort defensively, that's just something that you can just outright control. Like, you control how much effort that you can put in defensively, how engaged you are defensively, how engaged you are on the glass. So whenever you're not contributing offensively as a scorer, you don't have the same passing chops that you did previously because of your different role, and you're not putting in aggressive. You're not putting in engaged defense, and you're not engaged on the glass. There's not much you can say other than this was a bad game, and it was just a bad game from Josh Giddey. -10 in this one. Only played 18 minutes in this one. So those two guys, I mean, like that does it. And it's 2 of your 5 starters, and they didn't shoot the ball well. They didn't play defense well. They just didn't have energy, and neither did the rest of the team either. Specifically defensively, the team did not play well. The bad part was, like, for the first half especially, the Thunder played good offense in the first quarter, in the first half, but their defense was lackluster, and it eventually caught up to them. And then you're kind of plugging holes on a sinking ship. You're rearranging chairs on the Titanic whenever you're out there not playing defense. Eventually, the game comes down to stops, and they didn't get enough as a team. Isaiah Joe got extremely hot, though. 4 for 7 from 3. The give and go with Chet for the rim finish was awesome. A rebound, 15 points. He was only a -1, a part of OKC's best lineups. And here's what we're talking about with Isaiah Joe. Much better offensive threat. Really good defender for his size. And in a matchup like this, where you're not losing much on that end because there's no point of attack guy you really need to shut down, he's a better option for you in a matchup like this, specifically whenever Lu Dort's not shooting the ball well than Lu Dort. He plays 22 minutes. I think that Lu Dort has been overall extremely positive, extremely good this season, and he has extremely improved his game as an efficient player, as a shooter from beyond the arc, and as a decision maker. Lu Dort's been much, much, much better this year than he's ever been. But he's had back-to-back bad shooting games, so it's kind of not going to be celebrated for that in the last couple of games. But Lu Dort has been better. It's just in this game specifically, especially with no top guy, Isaiah Joe would have been a really good answer to play more extended minutes. But still, 22 minutes off the bench is good from Isaiah Joe. Cason Wallace impacted this game. Good rebounds. Great job getting 4 steals in this one, 3 boards, 3 assists. J. Will got hurt, which is not good, because J. Will has provided a spark in this winning streak. He had 6 points in limited action tonight, 2 rebounds, but he got hurt whenever Cedi Osman rolled into him, whenever Isaiah Joe took a charge. No clue, what the injury, is in terms of length, or if it's any length at all. They have 2 off days coming up. No word on that quite yet. But the Thunder did play Bismack Biyombo. I think it was directly tied to J. Will getting hurt, and they only played him for about a minute and a half in this one, who they should have played more. And this was my main gripe with the rotation. And it's going to be a gripe that, I'm never going to agree with, right, wrong, or indifferent. And it's the fact that in a game where you lacked energy, in a game where you lack defense, in a game where you lack juice, Aaron Wiggins plays 11 minutes. To me, that just can't happen. In 11 minutes, Wiggins has 4 points, 3 boards, and assists, and only 1 missed shot. To me, in any game, riding high or playing bad, Aaron Wiggins has to play more than 11 minutes. But when you factor in how bad Lu Dort was, and you factor in how bad Josh Giddey was, I don't know. I don't know how you only have 11 minutes for Aaron Wiggins. Now, again, that's going to be something that is going to be a point of contention for me, no matter what the score is, no matter who's playing where, no matter who's doing what. I am a big believer in what Aaron Wiggins provides as a 3-level scorer, as a switchable defender, as a guy who gives consistent effort and consistent energy in a game where you lacked that. But I'm not the head coach. I'll never be the head coach. And the Thunder have a great head coach. So there's clearly something that was seen or whatever that caused this. But for me, I would much rather prefer to see Wiggins play more than 11 minutes. MVP of this game is Jaylin Williams. Again, don't get caught up in this game. It's a loss. No one likes to lose, but the Thunder were due for a loss. They were not going to go on a 30-game winning streak or whatever, a 29-game winning streak. They just weren't going to do that. So it is what it is. Regroup. They play the Suns. The good thing about this for the Thunder, is that they typically have risen to the challenge after games like this. So with 2 days off, going to Phoenix, by the time the Thunder get to Phoenix, they'll be winning. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll have a recap of the Suns game on Monday, recap of the Lakers game on Tuesday, stock watch on Wednesday, recap of the Blazers game Thursday, special guest on Friday, and a recap of the Heat game on Saturday. So a jam-packed week coming up on Locked On Thunder. Make sure you subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. It's at RYLAN_STILES. And drop your comments down below. Is the Rookie of the Year race over? What stood out the most to you in this game between the Thunder and the Spurs? And whose stock is trending up and down as we get to that stock watch next week? I'll leave that all down below. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.